Hello, welcome back to the Southern Scouser. It has been a while, so if you've wondered where I've been other than the Football Manager series, check out myself on the Red Sea Podcast. That is at the Red Sea Pod on Twitter, that is at the Red Sea Pod on Instagram, and it is under Never a Foul on YouTube. So all my Liverpool content is on there. We've got weekly shows. Me and my colleague James, aka Tiago's father, 89. That's the new hub of where the Southern Scouser, myself, I give all my opinions, Liverpool reviews, tier lists like I'm going to be doing today, transfer shows, Euro watch, match reactions, anything and everything Liverpool FC that I now make is all on the Red Sea podcast. So I'll try and keep this one going along here and there, not making it go dormant. Football Manager I've done a little bit of, so that's gone fairly well. So I've not done any kind of facial videos for a little while, but I thought what I'd do with the transfer market in full swing, the full rumour mill, as it were, I'd have a little look at whereabouts I think that Liverpool's current squad should end up at the end of the summer transfer window. Should they be in the first 11 next season? Should they be on the bench? Should they be rotated? Backups? Should they, maybe be loaned out, or should they be sold altogether? So this is my little tier list that you can see, and yeah, I'm basically going to get straight into it. So it's not going to be an absolute mammoth video. The first one, I'll put them in the middle so you can see who I'm talking about. This is Costa Simicas, who had a pretty underwhelming first season at Liverpool. Barely played at all. Very, very difficult to rate him. I think we probably keep him as backup. If we was to be linked to a better left back potentially, but we spent £12 million on him a year ago. So I think to move him on after 1 year would be a little bit premature. I think give him one more season, see if he comes through okay, see if he can get some game time. Maybe in the cups, maybe some dead rubber Champions League games, we can get him involved as well, and give Andy Robertson a well-deserved rest. So I don't know. I think rotation might be a bit strong. I think Robertson has got that position nailed down. James Milner has stepped into full-back areas as well, but I think backup for Simicas is about right. But let me know in the comments as well where you'd put him. The next one is quite an easy one. Ozan Kabak, who has already left the club. Liverpool obviously loaned him in January. Did okay, but didn't set the world alight. And now we've signed Ibrahima Konate, which is an upgrade. We decided not to pursue that deal. So whether or not we'll go back in for him towards the end of the window remains to be seen. It seems unlikely with Nat Phillips if he was to stick around as maybe a fifth choice. But yeah, I'll get onto him shortly. But Ozan Kabak is out the door. Fabinho is a pretty easy one to do. One of the best players in the squad, probably one of the players of the season. Had to play in midfield, at centre back at times, and all right, we weren't as successful as we would have hoped when he was at the back, but that wasn't because of his own performances. That was because his partner next to him wasn't great, and we missed him in the midfield. That kind of protection. So without doubt, Fabinho is up there for me with N'Golo Kante as one of the greatest holding midfielders on the planet right now. So straight into that first 11, absolutely no questions asked whatsoever. Next one up is very, very easy again. Alison, going to be the first choice. I think the interesting question next year is who's going to be backup. Alison hasn't been the most consistent performance-wise or injury-wise over the last 2 years. He has missed chunks of football and important games. I think about the Atletico Madrid Champions League game a couple of seasons ago when Adrian came in and we lost. So Liverpool always really struggled for a first choice goalie. We've finally got one, but I still feel that we need that better backup. The likes of Kelleher, he's coming through. Adrian, for me, we'll find out what I think about him, but for me, I think we need another backup goalkeeper in this window. Again, Jordan Henderson, straight into that first 11 for me. We missed him badly, didn't we? He played a lot of the games as centre-back cover as well. That's how bad it got. Hasn't played since February for Liverpool and not played in midfield since December. So I'm really looking forward to see him back fully fit. He's got 45 minutes under his belt in the latest England friendly as well. So I can't wait to see him back leading the boys on another title charge, really, whether that be the Prem or the Champions League or both. So yeah, first 11 for me. Depending on who we bring in, there may be some rotation in there. We've been linked with Tielemans as well. But I think Fabinho and Henderson are nailed on starters for the big games. Now, the next one's very interesting. Nat Phillips. Really hard to call because, you look at the centre-back options we currently have at the club. Van Dijk's first choice. Konate or Gomez or Matip are going to play alongside him. That's 4. How many centre-backs do we need? If Fabinho can play in there again, Henderson can play in the DM role if they're both fit. does Nat Phillips really want to go into a season as fifth choice? And let's be honest, if everybody stays fit, that rotation of the front of the first four defenders is probably going to be more than enough. So I think it's time to move Nat Phillips on. I don't want to leave us short at the back, but we've still got Reece Williams. He might be loaned out, for example, and come back. But I think the breakout season for Phillips was this year, and I'm not putting him in taxi because I don't want him at the club, because I think he was excellent. I think from a personal point of view, I think he's 23. He deserves that move now. And to go and play first team football, I think he's good enough. I think there's teams in the Premier League, the likes of Burnley, Brighton, newly promoted teams, Norwich and Watford, that would bite your hand off to have Nat Phillips. And I don't think he'd cost an arm and a leg either. I think 5 million would be more than fair. So yeah, if we can get more than that, then Michael Edwards works his magic, great. But yeah, the two centre backs that we pretty much had for the close of the season are on their way out, in my opinion. Another centre back now is Reece Williams, who I did just touch on. I don't think he's a world beater yet. I don't think he probably ever will be, but I think his value is going to increase over the next few years. He's still a very young lad, so I think loan out would be perfect. I don't see him as a future Liverpool first team player, if I'm honest, but I think if we loan him out maybe to the Championship, get him used to playing week in, week out football, being relied on, maybe we can then bring him back in a couple of years' time and make a little tidy profit on him and move him out to another Premier League bottom half kind of club. So for me, loaned out, Reece Williams would be the right decision. The next one is a shame. Gini Wijnaldum, taxi. Unfortunately, as much as I would have loved to have kept Gini Wijnaldum, he felt that he deserved a bigger contract on a longer contract terms. I agree with him. I think he did deserve it. However, I can understand why Liverpool have moved him on. It's just the consistency that I struggle with. We brought Thiago in, very similar age to Gini Wijnaldum, gave him a big pay, gave him a big contract, and Gini Wijnaldum, who's been an absolute amazing servant for the club, similar age, wants a pay rise to reflect his importance to the team. He plays every single big game he is in the team, and he didn't get it, and that makes me think that we're maybe looking at a Tielemans to come in and replace him. But yeah, I think Gini Wijnaldum, he leaves Liverpool as a club legend, especially for me. Looks like he was going to go to Barcelona. Now that seems PSG have offered crazy free agent money. So, he's got to think about his family. Obviously, he's a very rich man already, but if he doesn't want to ever worry about anyone in his family ever again, why would you not take the biggest offer? He's achieved everything he wanted to in football. He's won the Champions League. He's won the Premier League. If he wants to go to France and win the league and still compete in the Champions League, play alongside Mbappe and Neymar, for me, that's not exactly a step down, is it? So the French league is, but PSG as a club are a massive, massive team. So good luck to Gini Wijnaldum. We will miss him. I do hope we bring in a replacement, but yeah, he is on his way out of the club, as I would hope is this guy, Ben Davies. And I see Liverpool fans kind of talk about him and like, oh, he's going to be involved next year. In what universe is Ben Davies a Liverpool football player? £2 million from Preston, who finished below this team that I'm wearing today, Luton Town, in the Championship. They're my local club, so I do rep them as well. But Ben Davies, for me, very, very strange one. I think it was brought in as an emergency signing just in case someone like Kabak or Nat Phillips got injured as well long term. If we were ended up with absolutely zero defenders, he would have been in the team. Did feature on the bench now and again and was missing from the squad fairly often as well. He did struggle with injuries as well somehow, bearing in mind he didn't even play. But yeah, I think for me, he probably moves on in the summer as well to a Celtic, maybe to a promoted Premier League team. I think he's probably on his way. I think he's 25. He's not going to get any better. He's not a golden gem 17, 18-year-old defender we've just unearthed. He is what he is. Fair play to him. He's made a career out of playing football, but he's not Liverpool quality. So he should be on his way. Now the next one is a very, very interesting one. It's James Milner, who is now in the last year of his contract with Liverpool. It's got a 2-year extension 2 years ago, obviously. I think 1 year would have sufficed. I don't really see him being involved very much next season. Probably only as a backup, whether that be to captain the FA Cup young teams and the Carabao Cup here and there, and to be a voice around the dressing room again. I don't see him really involved in football terms quite as much. Hopefully we won't get as many injuries as well to the midfield that we usually do, as well as the defenders. And as I say, he has filled in quite a lot, captained the team. Filled in at fullback as well. But for me, I think backup next season, in his last season with Liverpool, whether or not he'll retire or he'll move on and play for someone like Leeds for a year, I don't know. But I think getting a 36, 37-year-old in that Leeds team, the amount of running they have to do is going to be very tricky for him. So he might call it a day after this season. It'll be very interesting to see what he does. But for me, we're not going to sell him. He's got 1 year left on his contract. There's absolutely no value in selling James Milner. He's on a very big contract, over 100k a week, which for me is really silly. But we've done what we've done. I think give him the last year out, let him leave a club legend. Whether he wants to retire or not is up to him. Naby Keita, so I'll put him in the middle for now. He's someone that I've really had enough of now. Alright, you can have a bad year. I don't personally agree with having a bad year, but alright, he had a bad year. Second year, okay, now you need to kick on. Nowhere to be seen. Alright, well, third year, now it's time. You've had 2 years where you've not done anything. No, third year, nowhere to be seen again. And I was on a video with Grizz Khan and Thiago's father, talking about transfers, and Naby Keita's name came up, and as I say, we've needed to rely on these backup players to come and push the first team, especially when we had to borrow, 2 of our midfielders for centre back, and Naby Keita was never ever there, never ever available, never in form. I still don't know what kind of midfielder he is. Is he box to box? Is he a deep line playmaker? Is he a defensive midfielder? Is he a ball winner? I have no idea. I've not seen him play 2 games in a row and have a good game. So for me, I think it's time. We haven't had many flops under Jurgen Klopp, especially for the amount of money that we've spent. Obviously, the likes of Karius for 5 million weren't great, but Keita, £60 million a year in advance. We agreed that deal, and honestly, he's bang average. I don't know where all this Naby Keita love actually comes from. I really don't. I've got nothing personal against him whatsoever. Clearly, he's a good footballer, but he's not shown it at Liverpool. So for me, I don't know how long he wants. You look at Fabinho. He signed in the same summer as Keita. He's one of the first names on the team sheet, and Keita's right at the bottom. So time's done. I think Curtis Jones coming through, maybe a Yuri Tielemans as well. Both better than him. I'd like to see Oxlade-Chamberlain involved as well, which I'll get onto shortly. But for me, Keita's days are done. So Curtis Jones, I'm going to put him straight into the rotation, purely because he's not a first 11 player, but I really, really like Curtis Jones. I think he's a cracking player. He's the most, don't get me wrong, he's the most similar player we have to Jack Grealish. I'm not saying he's anywhere near that level yet, but he's a ball carrier, and we don't have a lot of that in this team. Fabinho is a ball winner. Henderson is a leader and a ball spreader. Thiago is a tiki-taka linker. We don't have anybody quite like Curtis Jones that can get the ball from one penalty area and take it to the other area, at the edge of the other area. Some of the shots, some of the goals he scores, some of the interplay, he was doing well, and I was ashamed to not see him as involved as maybe he was in the first half of the season, towards the end of the season. I would have liked to see him play a few more minutes, and I hope next season he'll get a little bit more game time. So for me, 100%, not in the first 11, definitely better than the backup now. I'd like to see him involved for some energy. 70 minutes in a match. Is Henderson knackered? Is Thiago a bit tired? Both into their 30s now. Let's put a Curtis Jones on for 20 minutes. Let's see what can happen. So for me, brilliant player. Very bright future ahead for him. Xherdan Shaqiri. Now this is one that I think probably splits opinion. I rate Xherdan Shaqiri as a footballer, but I don't see enough of him. He's never involved. He's never fit. He's never available. And he pops in now and again. He played against Everton when we beat them 5-2. He pops in against Barcelona and gets an assist for Gini's header. And now and again he's got good moments. A couple of goals against Man United, but it's almost one moment a year, one moment every 6 months at best. So I think we can get better than him. I really, really do. And really, he's a right midfield, right winger, isn't he? Left wing, left midfield. So the way we play, he's not really a Mane, a Salah, a Jota kind of template. He's not fast. He's not a runner. He's get on the ball to feet, create some magic, and we don't play with a 10. So for me, I think it's probably time to go. It might sound harsh, but I think there's a lot better players out there, and I don't think he contributes enough to stay in this team. Oxlade-Chamberlain. Now this is, again, people will probably crucify me for this, but I really like him. And I know he's had his injury problems, and I know he's been more injury prone probably than Keita, or at least the same. But he has actually shown something in a Liverpool shirt in his time here. Brilliant first season, injured the second season, and it's been a bit dotty for the next. But, a couple of great goals away to Genk in the Champions League. Came on against Burnley and got a goal in one of the last games of this season. But I think it's last chance saloon for Chamberlain. I think this season is his make or break. If he finishes the end of this season coming, having played 5 to 10 matches, it's time to move on. But I want to keep him for now. I think he's better than a Keita and a Shaqiri, in my opinion. I know people out there will be screaming at the telly or whatever you're watching it on to get him out the door. But I think he's got one more year in him at least. He's very much Adam Lallana, isn't he, territory? Can we rely on him? Because if you can get something out, if you can get 25 games out of Chamberlain, it's worth it. But if you can get less than 10 to 15, it's not. So last chance for Chamberlain. I think he's a fantastic player when he's on it. Very unfortunate that he's had the injuries that he's had, but I'd like to see a renaissance from him next season. So I'm putting him in rotation. Thiago, someone that's also in the very similar position to him. I think he makes up that final midfield three with the other two on that list. So Fabinho and Henderson complete that final three of the midfield starters. As I say, whether we bring in a Tielemans, whether we mix in a Curtis Jones and Oxlade-Chamberlain with rotation, with the type of opponent we're playing, any knocks, any injuries, any suspensions, that would be really good. So I think that five right there at the top is a good midfield five. If we can add a sixth, whether that's Tielemans or not, that for me is really, really strong. So I'd love to see Thiago, basically how he ended last season, start this season. He had a really horrible injury away to Everton at the very, very beginning of the season. So I would love to see him involved from the start and show his absolute quality that we all know he has. Now this is a very, very, very difficult one. Roberto Firmino. Now, it's a tricky one. He is not as good as he used to be. Let's not beat around the bush. He's been better. 17-18, brilliant. 18-19, yeah, not bad. 19-20, again, pretty good for the first half, tailed off at the end. 20-21, shocking. Now and again he scores a good goal, but not enough. So, do we have to move him on to bring someone better in? Or can we bring someone better in and keep him as the option? I.e., Firmino's the new Origi, but actually the one that played, not last season, the season before. So for me, if finances are okay, I would keep Firmino as a backup option, potentially as rotation, because you can't just play the same striker every single week. But I think we could do with a better number 9 in his place in the first 11. So I'm going to put him in rotation. I think he's a fantastic substitute striker, a bit like a Gabriel Jesus. I don't think he's good enough to lead the line now anymore. So, yeah, on to the next one, Sadio Mane. Now, this again, very, very, very interesting. So, Sadio Mane has a very similar season to Firmino. Probably the first season we said he's not been at it. Firmino's probably had a couple where you think, it's dropping off a little bit. So, is Sadio Mane a first 11 player or is he rotation? I think he's still first 11, depending on who we bring in. I don't know if we're going to be bringing in another front three person. And if we do, I think it's going to be a Daka, a Rafinha, someone that is going to put more pressure on than the likes of Shaqiri. I don't think we're looking to replace Mane in the first 11, so I would be very surprised if he wasn't in the first team in that first game of the season. I'd love to see him rediscover his form. Whether he can remains to be seen. I don't want to go into a new season with Mane as the only left winger. No options to replace him if he has an absolute stinker from August to December and we're like, well, now we've got to try and find someone in January, or we've got another year with only Mo Salah scoring any goals. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think first 11 because I don't see Liverpool signing a replacement for him. I'd like to see us sign a replacement striker for Firmino. Someone like Lautaro Martinez. Erling Haaland's probably unrealistic, but I think Martinez at Inter Milan is a good option. I'd like to see him maybe come in, but I don't think we're actively looking to replace Sadio Mane and Firmino. I think that would be asking a lot. So I'm going to leave him right where he is at the moment. But Mo Salah, I don't really need to say anything. The best player in this squad, the best player in the Premier League in my opinion. And yeah, he's in the first 11, hopefully for the rest of his days on that right wing. A lot of people have said, could he become a striker? Could he become a number 9? And no, why would you change it? He's the best right winger in the world, cutting inside on his left foot. Why change the one thing that works in this team? No matter how bad the rest of the team is, Mo Salah hits numbers. Mo Salah scores 30 goals. So no, he could do a number 9 role. Don't get me wrong, but he's not the kind of Cristiano Ronaldo that can convert into a great big striker. He's not got the height, the size, or the power, or the leap. He doesn't score headers very often. You might get the odd one, but not leaping, above centre backs. So keep him in the right wing until he physically can't run anymore. In my opinion, as the song goes, running down the wing. Divock Origi. Now this is why he goes in the taxi. He barely played at all, and if Firmino becomes the backup, we get a striker in, and Origi falls off the bottom. So there's a lot of deadwood down there to get rid of. But for me, Origi's he's a cult hero, isn't he? He's scored some cracking goals. I'll never forget the Barcelona goals, the Tottenham goal to win us the Champions League as well. Goals against Newcastle in the league when we were chasing the title. Everton, the Everton one when Pickford drops it on his crossbar. There's been some great moments, but for me, consistently, Klopp's clearly shown this season that he doesn't rate him enough to be involved as much as he probably expected to be. So I think it's time for Divock eventually to now go. He's been here a very long time. I think 7 odd years he's been a Liverpool player, whether that's been out on loan or in the first team. But I think it's definitely time for him to move on. Diogo Jota. Now he's an interesting one. If we don't sign a forward, which I would be disappointed with, he probably becomes first 11. You'd probably see him through the middle. Although I don't think that's his best position. I think Jota is a very good backup for a Mane or a Salah. More Mane, because I think Salah's pretty much untouchable. But Mane and Jota switching over on the left-hand side is good. Mo Salah, it's difficult to... He doesn't really need any competition because he's just so brilliant. And he's very rarely injured, very rarely out of form, if at all. So I think I'm going to keep Jota in rotation as a rotated winger. And I'm going to put all my money, hopefully, and all my hopes on Liverpool signing a new number 9. So I think that's been needed for a while. We've not really been linked with any strikers yet whatsoever. We've been linked with midfielders to replace Gini. We've got maybe left back, right back, backup goalkeeper options as well. And obviously Konate was the first signing through the door as a centre half. So long summer to go of transfers. But for me, Jota is perfect in that rotation. It's really difficult to find someone that's happy to be rotation, but is really the quality of a first 11 player, and Jota fits that bill perfectly. Adrian, now he is one for me that is a very topical discussion. He is shocking. We got him on a free, and already he was poor. He had a couple of good games. He did all right in the Super Cup. He had he went on a good run in the Premier League and got some wins. He's got the best winning percentage of any Liverpool player ever, which is a very, very strange stat, but it was more to do with how good the team were in that moment and how good the defence were. But he's out of contract this summer, and we're linked with giving him a new 1-year deal extension because Kelleher may be loaned out. Adrian as our backup goalie next season for me is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And alright, you'll never walk alone, let's back all the Liverpool players. You can actually use your brain. You are allowed to have an opinion that's not pro-Liverpool footballers no matter what. You can say, do you know what, actually he's not really good enough for this level anymore. Never really was. That's why he's been at West Ham for most of his career. It's time to go. He's not good enough. We need to get a new backup goalkeeper. And I know it's difficult to find backup goalkeepers that aren't 17, 18, 19 and aren't 35, 36. To find someone between those ages that's happy to be a backup goalkeeper is difficult. I'm not saying it isn't. But there are people out there that would more than happily come to Liverpool as a backup option, knowing Alison's going to get 1 or 2 injuries here and there, knowing you can play him in the Cups, knowing you can play him in a couple of Champions League dead rubbers. Why would you not? If you're a backup goalie at somewhere else and you want to become a backup goalie at Liverpool, why would you not want to be? If you're a first team player a bit lower down and you want to experience high level football, being in a Premier League title challenging team, playing in the Champions League, for me it's a no-brainer. I'm not sure who that might be. I think there's a lot of options out there, but for me Adrian has to go. Interestingly, the next one is Quivin Kelleher. So he's been alright. He seemed to have overtaken Adrian this season as the new backup goalkeeper. He played more than Adrian. He came in kind of midway through the season. We saw Kelleher in the team and we were like, oh, okay, he's becoming a bit more of a regular. Usually he was just conceding 5 with the kids in front of him. So very difficult to judge a goalkeeper when he's got no one in front of him that have ever played together before in a first team game. When he came into the team with an actual Liverpool first 11 in front of him, even though the centre-backs were missing, I think he did pretty well. Is he ready for Liverpool to be a backup goalkeeper? Potentially. Would a loan help him massively? Look at Dean Henderson leaving Man United. I'd never heard of the bloke. Goes to Sheffield United. Now he's in the England squad. Potentially going to become the Man United number 1 goalie. So Kelleher needs a loan. Whether that's to a Premier League team, I would hope it probably could be. Maybe again, you look at Sheffield United getting Henderson. Could he be loaned to Watford and Norwich, depending on where their goalkeepers go? Are they looking to improve? Brentford as well. I know they've got a decent goalkeeper, but you know what I mean. Those kind of teams around in and around that are looking for a goalkeeper. Newcastle, those kind of teams. Would they be interested? So for me, a loan out for Kelleher makes perfect sense. If he has a great season, great. Bring him back in as backup next season, or a third choice, or loan him out again. He's still very, very young, depending on if we do bring in anyone as a backup. Or if he has a shocker and you think actually, do you know what, he's at Wolves, he's at Watford, and he's letting 2 or 3 goals in a game, and he's having a shocker, move him on. So it's no strings attached. So into the last few now, we've got Virgil Van Dyke, and what a miss he's been the last season. Really struggled to deal with the miss that he, the gap that he left in our team. He's the man in charge. He marshals that defence. Just the aura of him makes strikers afraid. He scores goals from headers in corners. He's a leader. He gets assists. He's got the lot. He's the best defender, at least in the world right now. he could actually be touching, in terms of ability, not what he's achieved, one of the best the Premier League's ever seen. Now, Vincent Kompany, Rio Ferdinand, John Terry are all at the top because they've all won multiple Premier Leagues, Champions Leagues. They're fantastic. Van Dijk isn't quite at that level yet. He's only been here a short while, realistically, since 2018 January window. He's already won a league, he's already won a Champions League, and he's missed a whole year with injury. So what he does in the next 2 to 3 years will decide if he's a great or a legend. So for me, will remains to be seen. He has everything to become a legend. This team has everything to build around him and Mo Salah. I think he's going to be on his way to one of the greatest of all time. So yeah, for me, first 11 without a doubt. Now, Joe Gomez is an interesting one. I haven't got Konate as one of my pictures yet, but I think Konate's coming in to play alongside Van Dijk as a first choice. I think Gomez will feature as well. You look at Manchester City, Ruben Dias is always there. You've then got a Stones or a Laporte playing alongside him, and rarely an Ake as well. I think we're going to follow that model. I think we're going to have a Van Dijk and a Konate or a Gomez, with a Matip coming in now and again when we need him. I think that's enough, with Fabinho that can fill in there as well. So I think the likes of Phillips, Kabak, Ben Davies are all going to be on their way out. I'm going to put Joe Gomez in rotation for now, because both those two have had long season ending injuries. Do we start both of them on the first day of the season? I'm not sure. I think Konate starts, and I think Van Dijk comes back alongside him. I think Gomez is eased in here and there just to test how strong he is. Van Dijk, we all know, had an ACL, should be fine after a year. Gomez had a very nasty injury. You know, he's struggled with impact injuries quite a lot. You know, so I think ease him in and out, and also use Joel Matip as well in that way. So Andy Robertson is without doubt first 11, one of the greatest left backs in the world. And if you look at the stats, everyone's like, oh, Shaw and Chilwell were the best left backs this season. Robertson had just as good a seasons as them, if not better. Goals, assists, clean sheets, he's well up there. Games played. So, alright, he's not set the world alight this year. Watch him next year. Him and Trent with Van Dijk back in there, with a Konate, with a Fabinho, with a Henderson, with a Thiago, flying forward with Mane and Salah and a striker as well. It's going to be lethal. So he is straight in the first 11. Joel Matip, as I've mentioned again, he's going to be in rotation for me. I think he's going to be used sparingly, a bit like Lovren was used in his last season, maybe playing 15 games, something like that. It's a difficult. He's between backup and rotation. I think he's strong enough to be rotation in terms of his ability. I think Lovren was probably one step down in ability from the others, so he became backup. I think I'd like to see Gomez, Matip, Konate and Van Dijk all used fairly regularly next season. Keep them all as fresh as possible. So for me, rotation for Matip. He's good enough, whether or not he can stay fit, because if he has another year like Naby Keita where he's just never ever available, I think this is his last season with us. If he can get some game time, build on that, I think he's a very good fourth choice option, as long as he's happy with that, and I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be. Trent, as I mentioned, just Robertson on the other side, isn't he? He's had some stick for his apparently poor performances, and he can't defend, but I don't think you get into the England squad and win the Premier League and the Champions League and get in the Team of the Year and Young Player of the Year and all that if you're not good at defending as a defender. Alright, it's not his strongest attribute. His strongest attribute is going forward, but what an amazing bonus for your right back to have. The delivery of James Ward-Prowse, the free kick prowess of a Beckham. And he is a good defender. He's pacey, he's young, he gets his body in the way, he gets involved, he gets stuck in. He's a Scouse lad playing for Liverpool. He loves it. He can defend. Alright, he's not Wan-Bissaka. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but he's good enough at it. He's a great defender and a fantastic attacker from fullback. So I would have him in the first 11 for the rest of time until he's 34, 35, and he can be captain when the likes of Henderson, Salah, Van Dijk all decide to hang up their boots. He will be captain for Liverpool without doubt. The last one, I believe, which is Nico Williams. I think loan out makes complete sense for him. He's in the Wales squad. Whether he'll play every game in the Euros, I'd like to see. I'll keep an eye on him. He came into the team pretty regularly a couple of seasons ago. Last season we didn't see as much of him. A loan would be perfect, wouldn't it? To really test him. Can he go on loan again to a Watford, to a Brighton? You know, someone around that kind of level. Newcastle, someone bottom half. Even he's not quite there for the top teams, but someone in and around 10th to 15th or the newly promoted sides, I think he could do a good job at. Let's see how good he is on there. You look at someone like Lamptey, couldn't get a look in at Chelsea, went to Brighton, and now he's one of the most sought after fullbacks in the Premier League. So Nico, I'm not ready to get rid of him yet. Loan out would be perfect. You can notice that all my loans outs are young. if they're young, loan them out. If they're old and you don't need them, sell them. That's always got to be the way. Simicas could possibly be rotation, but I don't see Robertson. The gap between those two is too big. Obviously, you notice we're missing a right back. Joe Gomez can fill in there, but I don't rate him as a fullback. So I think in terms of summer signings, well, compared to this, we're missing one starter because we haven't got a striker. So our number 9, I think Jota's a good option on the wing. Could we get one more option on the wing? I would probably say yes, to replace the likes of Shaqiri. Give someone on the right and Salah a bit more competition. Firmino as a backup striker. Jones, Chamberlain, maybe a Tielemans as backup midfielders. And yeah, Gomez and Matip more than cover Van Dijk and Konate at centre half. Backups, as I said, Simicas. It's difficult for me to put him as a rotation. I don't think we're going to just rest Robertson. We don't really need to. Simicas will be back up if Robertson physically can't play. If he has a good game, maybe we can move him up to rotation if he has a few good months. But James Milner, I think, as I said, I don't see him featuring very much with the likes of Jones, with the likes of Chamberlain, with the likes of a new arrival potentially coming as well. Free to be loaned out, as I mentioned, the young guns, and Kabak and Gini have already left. I think Phillips and Davies follow suit purely because we're covered in the centre-back areas. Naby Keita, for me, at end of the road. Shaqiri, again, we can do better. Divock Origi didn't play last season, and if we bring in a new number 9, that's definitely it for him. If we go into another season with Firmino and Origi as our number 9s, don't expect trophies. And Adrian, yeah, as I mentioned, time to go. So that's it from me. That's my Liverpool well, not really ins, but outs tier list. I might do an ins one, get some of the people we're linked with, and say, definitely get, maybe not get, want to think about kind of thing, want to watch for next year. So that's been it from me. Thank you very much for watching. As I said, don't forget to check out all my main content over on Never a Foul on YouTube. So if you type Never a Foul into YouTube right now, go to playlists, the Red Sea podcast, all our videos are in there. We're live, pretty much every video is live. Obviously this is recorded, but all of our videos are live, so feel free to interact. Feel free to follow, as I said, at the South Scouse. You can see at the bottom is myself on Twitter. My co-host is Thiago's Father 89 as well, and of course follow the Red Sea Pod, which is on Twitter and on Instagram, and soon to be on TikTok as well. So don't be afraid to check that out when within the coming months over the summer. That's going to launch. But that's been it from me, guys. See you next time. I'll hopefully do a new video very, very soon. Take care.